Tammy Franks has the call.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move notice of motion, private business number 6, standing in my name, namely that I introduce a bill for an Act to amend the Work Health and Safety Act 2012.
Is the motion seconded? Put the question that the motion be agreed to. Those for the question say aye. Against say no. I think the ayes have it. Bring it up. Clerk.
A bill for an Act to amend the Work Health and Safety Act 2012.
The Honourable Ms Franks.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the bill now be read a second time. Today I rise to reintroduce the Greens Work Health and Safety Industrial Manslaughter Amendment Bill. This bill creates a new offence of industrial manslaughter for South Australia. It seeks to capture a very small minority of employers who cruelly and unnecessarily risk the safety of their employees. Putting workers' lives at risk for the sake of cost-cutting is unacceptable, and the statistics speak for themselves. It is no coincidence that I bring this legislation back before the Parliament today, just prior to Labor Day, a day where we commemorate the achievements of the Australian labour movement and recognise workers' contributions towards the nation's economy and social fabric. It's supposed to be a day where we celebrate the hard-won right to 8 hours work, 8 hours rest and 8 hours play. But what happens when those 8 hours of work are deadly due to the negligence of one's employer? We need to have higher penalties in our workplace laws to deter negligent employers. South Australia needs industrial relations laws to protect workers and their rights so they can not just feel but be safe in dangerous workplaces. Australian workers provide an invaluable service and they deserve to have the highest legislative safeguards. The Greens have introduced this legislation 3 times before in this parliament. During the 2018 state election, the Labor Party, I reflect, committed to industrial manslaughter laws that are at least as strong as those in Queensland. We will be holding them accountable to that promise. Since the last time we debated this bill, the penalties, of course, have been updated to better reflect the legislation in Queensland. This bill introduces important reforms to improve the safety of workplaces in our state through the principle of corporate criminal responsibility. The primary objective of this bill is to ensure that culpable employers are held responsible for their actions. The offence of industrial manslaughter covers the situation where an individual or corporation's conduct causes the death of a worker, where that individual or corporation's recklessness or negligence caused serious harm and death to that worker. Under this bill, an employer would be found guilty of an offence if the employer breaches their duty of care, the employer knew or was recklessly indifferent that the act or omission constituting the breach would create substantial risk of serious harm to a person, and the breach causes the death of a person. Companies and employers must do everything they reasonably can to prevent workplace injuries and deaths. Through this legislation, we seek to ensure that culpable employers are held responsible for the deaths that they cause if they act in a reckless or negligent manner. If they do not take responsibility for the safety of their workers, then penalties will and should apply. The penalties in this bill are high, but I note that they are not the highest in the country. The Greens simply want to ensure that employers are taking their duty of care to their employees most seriously. Every single workplace death is profound. Each one is its own tragedy that will affect the lives of many others forever. If an employer is negligent or recklessly indifferent to exposing workers to serious risk to their safety and someone dies as a consequence of that, this should be recognised by our law as a criminal offence. Such an offence, of course, is not unprecedented and exists in many other legislatures, such as, of course, Queensland most recently, previously the ACT and, of course, as I've often noted, the United Kingdom. As lawmakers, it is our responsibility in this place to ensure that employers have a genuine incentive to provide a safe workplace. We have so many carrots in our system, and we do need a few sticks as well. Everyone should be safe at work. Everyone deserves to come home safe and to be protected from industrial disease or harms. But far too many do not come home, do come to harm, and there is often no consequence. So far in 2020, 110 Australian workers have been killed at work. In 2019, that number was 182, compared to 144 in 2018. All of these numbers are unacceptable. And in all of these numbers, there are individual stories of tragedy, of pain and loss and harm and a lack of justice. The Greens are not alone in our call for stronger workplace protections, such as that of this one here, creating the industrial manslaughter offence. On the 25th of February last year, Safe Work Australia made public its review of Australia's occupational health and safety laws. That review was conducted by Mari Boland, and it made 34 recommendations, just one of which was to introduce industrial manslaughter laws across Australia. Our own Parliament has also made these same recommendations. The Occupational Safety, Rehabilitation and Compensation Committee undertook an inquiry into the law and processes relating to workplace injuries and death in South Australia, and in that inquiry the committee gave close attention to the offence of industrial manslaughter, and it found that, quote, based on the evidence presented to the committee, concluded that an offence of industrial manslaughter should be introduced in this state. Recommendation 20 as part of that report was that, quote, South Australia introduce an offence of industrial manslaughter, and that was way back in 2007. Yet here we are, we still don't have an offence of industrial manslaughter. We need to stop dragging our heels. Our South Australian workers deserve better. Every worker deserves to come home safe, and if they do not, their families and their loved ones deserve justice. With that, I commend this bill to the Council.